Hello everybody, welcome. I know we've gone away from the what sold and more towards a themed style video. However, I do get requests a lot for you guys to, see what's been selling. So I'm going to sprinkle them in here and there, maybe a monthly thing, maybe not. It really just depends on, when I can do them and how much time I have. And also it depends on the day. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over some stuff that's been selling for us on all of our platforms. Alright, so, not your traditional what sold. We are going to discuss a little more than we used to, rather than just show you products, tell you how much you paid for it, and so forth. We are going to go over a little bit, so it's going to be a what sold and why. We're not going to go over everything, just some of the highlights that have sold in the last couple days. I saved everything that sold yesterday for today so that we would have more to discuss, because our midweeks are hit or miss. So, first thing that sold are these. They are Cabbage Patch radios. See, she's listening. She's jamming out. But yeah, they don't work. And if they do work, they don't work well. AM radio, Cabbage Patch, and then this is also a radio, a radio. There's Cabbage Patch on it. It's got a speaker on the back and so forth. They don't work well if they do work, but they're kind of a collectibles thing. Cabbage Patch put their name on a lot of things and licensed out the logo for a lot of things during the Cabbage Patch craze in the 80s and then, early 90s. So there's a lot of this stuff in the marketplace. Some of it can be worth pretty good money. Most of it, not really. If you get it really cheap though, it's worth having, if you do sell toys and you want to go down that road, but we don't sell a lot of it. And with Sarah's internet presence or Instagram presence with, Cabbage Patches and such, you would think we would be on the upper end of selling stuff like this. So just bear that in mind when you're outsourcing stuff like this. It will sell. It won't sell for big money. To give you an example, now granted, these two don't work, or maybe they work but not well. $13 for the pair on Poshmark, which, again, I like selling stuff like this on Poshmark because this can go either way, as far as shipping goes, but there isn't that conversation. You don't ever get the shipping's just so expensive, because everything's the same amount of money on Poshmark, unless you're selling, high-end electronics. If you're selling a PlayStation on Poshmark, shipping's going to be different. And that's for another video, but, definitely want to take that into consideration if you're going to try and sell VCRs and PlayStations and big electronics on Poshmark, because they got hosed in the beginning for people selling PlayStations and shipping them $7.95 to Alaska or California or something. So keep that in mind when you're selling things like that on Poshmark. And like I said, different video. Maybe we'll go over it someday. But for now, just bear that in mind. Some other things that sell really good for us on Poshmark are linens, vintage linens. This is a vintage baby, not a sleep sack, but a sleeping bag. Brain's not working. Yeah, it's a vintage baby sleeping bag. Now, up front, this is for decorative purposes. You don't really put babies in sleeping bags. It's not a good idea. But stuff like this does do really well for us. Vintage linens on Poshmark sell very well. In fact, I would say they're probably close to the top. They might actually outsell eBay for us as far as vintage linens go. Dollar for dollar. Now, we might sell more of the cheaper ones on eBay, but for the most part, we sell a lot of vintage linens on Poshmark. So if you're outsourcing and you're thinking about getting into Poshmark, or even if you have a Poshmark store and maybe not all that active on it, things like this will actually jumpstart on Poshmark. Considering that we're not, fashion people, as far as like what we buy. In fact, most of our clothes are getting blown out of our store. But if you don't sell high-end fashion stuff, or you don't want to go through all the brands and, authenticity and things of that nature as far as clothing goes, something like vintage linens is easy to pick up and easy to sell on Poshmark. So keep that in mind. This sold for $14 plus shipping. So something else sold on Poshmark. We've had these forever. They finally sold. Blowout prices on these things. These are women's size 6.5 athletic shoes from Puma. And they're in good shape. They have some pretty good tread on them. They're not, they look like they've really been barely worn. I mean, because stuff like this definitely would get much more scuffed up than what's on these. So, really good shape. They're just not a good brand. Puma in this country is not hugely popular. So, take that in mind when you're selling Puma. These sold $10 plus shipping on Poshmark, and we actually sold another pair of them just recently on eBay for even less, and they're men's. So we'll go over that another time. But yeah, Puma size 6.5 women's, $10 plus shipping. I think we only paid $1 for them because they were part of that thrift store buy that we did. We're gonna hop on over to eBay and show you a few things that have sold on eBay. This is in a bag, but you're gonna get the idea pretty quickly. This is a fur skin, and it's made by Cabbage Patch. You can actually see the logo right there on the shoe. Cabbage Patch, fur skin. These were a thing that they tried to make. It never really caught on like Cabbage Patches did. I think they sold the vast majority of them because of the brand. But they do still have a collector value. Are they valuable as Cabbage Patches? Some can be. We have one right there. And that one's very valuable, and it's signed by Xavier Roberts. Hand signed, not like the stenciled on that you see on every Cabbage Patch. It is hand signed by Xavier Roberts, and that one's worth about $150. It's not going anywhere because it was gifted to us by Dave the NC Picker, so it's staying with us forever. And part of Sarah's collection. She wouldn't want to sell it anyways because it's signed by him. So, but yeah, they can be valuable. They can hold some value. You don't want to buy them like you would buy a Cabbage Patch, but if you can get them for a couple bucks like this one, $15 plus shipping, worth it. Some of the other things that have been selling, we did sell a license plate yesterday. This is a modern Pennsylvania license plate. Well, modern-ish. This is similar to what we use today, but has been expired. One of the key things when selling a license plate, especially one that they still use, is that you want to clearly be able to see that it is expired. We've gotten license plates pulled that didn't clearly have an expiration on it, or we didn't state that it was expired and when. So just something that you do want to note when selling license plates like these is that they are expired, and you definitely want to put in the description that it has been expired since when, because if you just say it's expired, they're going to pull it because you didn't give a date, and we had that happen several times. This one actually says in the description expired February of 2005, which is when this one expired. But not big money here, $7 plus shipping on eBay. Next up, my favorite thing that we sell, Postcard. We sold a cartoon postcard. We didn't really touch on these very much in the Postcard video, so we're going to touch a little bit on these. This one is comical. Your cigarettes taste a little different. It's because a dog's peeing on the tobacco plants. Not good. Anyways, these are cartoon postcards. They're not insanely valuable. If you get them in with a lot, which is what happens with us, so this wouldn't be something I would source. But you do get them in with lots of things, and that's what happened with this one. This is a newer postcard, so a chrome postcard, but not a lot of value here. $3.75. There's a lot of cute cartoons and, comical cartoons from back then that people made. And they look like they're, might be actually pretty valuable. And you're like, oh yeah, this is, different humor or different types of things. There's, adult humor postcards and things of that nature. And you would think that they hold a lot of value. Not really. $3.75 for this one. We have sold this one in the past. We had several of them. This is actually the last one. So this one is more popular than not, and I've seen different variations of this card. There's many different variations of this card. So, if you can get them real cheap, meaning pennies, certainly worth grabbing, but if you're going to be paying more than 50 cents for it, forget it. $3.75 for that one. Something else we sold a lot of yesterday was photos. Someone came through and bought a fair amount of photos from us. some of them are couples, some of them are children, some of them are, we'll pull some out here. This is couples playing the kissing game for prom. You got precious. And then there's a Halloween party, you know. One lady sitting on the floor, doesn't look comfortable. But they're all just sitting around the radio or something. And then there's a funny one of some girl sticking her tongue out next to a guy's butt. Then there's this lady. And this one probably sold more for this than for the person. Old bar scenes and such do sell for a lot more money. And then there's Marlene, our good friend Marlene from John and Marlene's albums. It's her in the kitchen there. And then there's a family one. I'm just walking the family down the street here. Right there. So, some of that stuff. Most of it is content oriented. You know, this one was kind of a mix. They didn't just go through and buy all our John and Marlene's, which you will have happen. If you buy albums upon albums of the same family, you'll get buyers that are interested in the family and just buy the photos because they're interested in the family. We've had several people come through with John and Marlene and buy just because it is who they are. Why? I can't tell you. I don't know what interest somebody else would have in a family they never knew or met. You know, if they knew the family, totally different story. But why? People, I don't know. People get obsessed with it. There are people that do research on these people. We've had that happen where people try to get, you know, the family tree and maybe put it on Ancestry. I have no idea. I really don't. But it does happen. It happens a lot. And so when you're buying photos, just know that you could get buyers that are going to come through and buy many photographs of this family. So try to have as much information as you can on them. We knew where they were from. We knew kind of, you know, a little bit about the family, but didn't know much. So next, we're blowing out clothing, and we also are blowing out shoes. These finally went. These are Chuck Taylor's pink Chucks. Women's size 9, men's size 7, hot pink. In pretty good shape. A little wear on the sole, but you know, all in all, pretty good shape. We do buy these when we see them if they're cheap enough. I'd say under $5 at this point because we're not big into shoes. But yeah, $18.75 plus shipping. Always a solid one if you can get them cheap. Last thing we're going to talk about. Last thing we're going to talk about is, you guessed it, we sold some cabbies. Several. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Cabbage Patches today and yesterday, which is awesome. I mean, actually 9 if you include the first skin. But I want to show you guys this. I don't know how I feel about this. It's a little terrifying in a way, but precious in a way. It's a bag. It is Cabbage Patch brand. There it is right there. Cabbage Patch branded tote bag. Is it old? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think it's new. I think it's been very well kept over the years. And yeah, Cabbage Patch tote bag. It did sell for... How much did it sell for? It sold with a bunch of other Cabbage Patches. $25 plus shipping for this. So, Cabbage Patch tote bag. And inside the Cabbage Patch tote bag is a Cabbage Patch, because this person is one of our best customers and bought several Cabbage Patches off of us this morning. So, you know, I don't need to tell you guys why we sell and how we sell Cabbage Patches. You kind of got the idea, right? We'll talk about one more thing. You guys have seen this before, but I'll mention it as an honorable mention. $13 plus shipping. This is photos, stock certificates, Braille, a Braille card, and some old postcards in here. A lot of the postcards that let's back up. There are postcards out there that are just not worth listing. What do I mean by not worth listing? The value of them is so low that for me, it's not worth the time. Meaning anything that you see, so most of the time, this is because there's tons of them out there. So a good example of this would be Niagara Falls postcards. There's hundreds of thousands of Niagara Falls postcards out there. And it's just a flood of there's so many of them. It's hard to single out one postcard. Now, don't get me wrong. If it's extremely old, something from very, very early 1900s, I will take the time and I'll list it, but I won't do a lot of research on it. It's going to be bottom of the barrel, $4 postcard. Go through that listing. It'll take me under 30 seconds to list. But there are other postcards out there where it's just, there's not a lot of value to them. So like certain ones can just be of certain areas, or they're foreign postcards. Foreign postcards don't do exceedingly well unless it's a very, very, well-known place, or if it's something that maybe is known now but wasn't back then, and now there's significant value to it. But I mean, look them up. If you look them up and you look through the sold comps and you find that there's just hundreds and hundreds of listings that are around the $1.50 range, probably just throw it in a pile. And that's what happens, is I throw them all in a pile, and then I bring them over to Sarah, and Sarah mixes them in with these ephemera lots. You can see one's right here and there's one right here. This one's a foreign postcard down here. And so that's what happens to these. Have some sort of catch-all for them, even if it's just a lot. Meaning that you have a bunch of postcards and you just say, okay, I'm going to just lot these up, throw them on eBay, and sell them all in one big lot. A lot of 30, a lot of 40 postcards. It works, and they will sell eventually. But yeah, $13. We sold a ephemera pack as well, plus shipping. All right, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, I do want to go over one thing with you guys, and this is not, it's selling related, but it's not what's sold. So the other day we got this right here, and I moved this from down here to up here just to cover the person's address, and this has happened to us before, and it can happen to you. And taking all that in. So return to sender, unable to forward. The buyer refused it. Postage due $4.30. And then there's circled and says parcel. All right. Little bit of a controversial subject. And there's going to be some comments. And I know. I've had this conversation with the post office many times. This, without this sticker on it, is just a stamped envelope. Granted, it's, eBay's, what do they call it? eBay standard envelope. Why can't I think of it? It is eBay standard envelope, but for all intents and purposes, all this really is a tracked version of somebody taking a stamp, putting it on an envelope, and sending it out in the mail. When we put this do not bend sticker on it, in the post office's mind, it makes it a parcel, meaning first class or above. Because it can't go through their machines that sorts all this mail. Which it can, and does, and we've had thousands upon thousands of postcards go out with this very sticker on it. And there are some post offices that are normally in podunk nowhere that will do this to you. And it has happened before, and it will happen again, more than likely. Well, it probably won't, because I think we're just not putting the do not bend stickers on them anymore. We put these stickers on here, and I'm just going to give you some, that's the explanation, by the way, because there is no other explanation. The only explanation is that the post office doesn't want to have to sort this by hand with a person, so because it doesn't go through the machine, it becomes a parcel now. Does it go through the machine anyways? Yes. Will it? Yes. In Podunk, Virginia, or wherever this went to, this particular person just decided to be a jerk and do this. It happened to us twice now. Well, 3 times now. And there is no other explanation. That's the explanation. The explanation is if it can't be sorted by a machine, they're going to pull it out and charge you first class postage and hand sort it. That's it. I've gone over this with our postmaster here, and I've given him the logic behind it, and he's like, I totally agree with you, because the reason these stickers are on here, and the reason we put these stickers on the postcards, is not for the sorting machine. It can go through the sorting machine. The sorting machine does not bend this thing in half. It just slightly bends it, and that's fine. It's a postcard. It'll make it. But what we're looking for, and what we want to try and prevent, is the mail carrier maybe arriving at an apartment complex or a P.O. box and shoving this thing in here and bending it to fit into the post box, or the mailbox, the post box. What am I, English? So that's why, but they don't get it. So just know that if you are shipping postcards, maybe forego the do not bend sticker altogether if you're using these rigid mailers, or if you're not, and you want to put these do not bend stickers on it because it make you feel better, just know that this could happen every now and again. And I don't blame this buyer for refusing this. I wouldn't pay the $4.30 either. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick it in another envelope and I'm going to send it back to him at first class because I'm a nice guy. And because I think this is complete crap. But that's what could happen. So just bear that in mind. Just a little, community notes for y'all. Just a little, the more you know. Public service announcement, if you will. Just wanted to bring that to your attention a little bit and how much of garbage I think this is. But it happens, and it has happened on a couple occasions. Doesn't happen a lot. But just know that. That some idiot could do this to you. That's going to wrap it up here for this week. Coming up on the channel, me and Sarah will be live tomorrow, but not this Sunday. So just so you know, no live show this coming Sunday. We're going on vacation. Maybe we'll pop on an Instagram live and say hi to you guys from the casino. But for the most part, we're going to be here or there and not here. So no live this coming Sunday. Yeah, and that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button. And if you haven't and you made it all the way this far, might as well hit the subscribe button. It's helpful to us. See you next time. Bye.
Good day, sir!